So the Philadelphia 76ers might end up losing their best assistant coach, and people are not happy about it. Let's break it down.
Perfect.
What is going on, everybody? RB here. Welcome into Philly Take with RB. You know what to do. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe for more content and ring the bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos or live streams. A lot of people have been saying that they're not getting the notifications. I would recommend unhitting the bell and then re-hitting the bell so that way you will be up to date with all the content. You know, the notifications get a little bit iffy sometimes, but either way, make sure you are tuning in. We have a lot to cover, and today we're hit with some very interesting news. That is right, coming out earlier today from Shams Charania is something we don't want to hear. He says the Utah Jazz are interviewing Philadelphia 76ers assistant Sam Cassell for their open head coaching job. Sources tell me and T. Jones on the NBA. Cassell was part of the 2008 champion Celtics, constructed by now Jazz CEO Danny Ainge, and has been assistant coach since 2009. Oh man, if you've been following the Jazz, a lot of trade rumors, a lot of things going on. They're talking about Rudy Gobert potentially being on the move. They're kind of in a transition period. They fired, or they said they mutually parted, I believe, with Quinn Snyder, who was there for a while, and he did a great job, and I'm sure he'll be on the market as well. But the Jazz obviously going in a different direction. And before we dive more into that, let's take it back one step, okay? So on June 5th, so 10 days ago, I put out a tweet, and of course I did, and I said, so help me if the Utah Jazz try to steal away Sam Cassell or Dave Yeager. This was after Quinn Snyder had announced that, you know, he was leaving the Jazz. And I heard, you know, a long list. I heard different names, right? Assistant coaches. Nobody really over the top. Figured, you know, they're going to go with a young guy or something like that. And I thought we were good. I thought we were in the green, and here we are today. And now the Utah Jazz, they're not even interested. They're interviewing Sam Cassell for their head coaching job. Now, this one's really simple for me. If you are the Sixers, listen to me closely. You got to do everything in your power to not let this happen. You have to do everything in your power to not let this happen. Let me explain, okay? So Sam Cassell, pretty solid point guard in his days, and he's been an assistant, like I said, for 12 years now, 13 years. You know, he won that championship with the Celtics. Later on, after, you know, being with the Wizards for a couple years, he goes and ends up being an assistant with Doc Rivers, you know, becomes his right-hand man in LA. Then he comes over with him to Philadelphia. And he's been highly touted by a lot of executives, a lot of other coaches around the league as a guy who really knows ball, right? And it's not just the on-the-court coaching. You see this guy pregame, right? He's talking to Tyrese Maxie. He used to talk to Ben Simmons. He talks to Tobias Harris. He seems like he really has a good relationship with these players, especially the guards, right? Since he played the position. And he's really just been, you know, regarded as a high-quality coach who knows his stuff. And he's really one of those guys that's next in line, right? We've been hearing that for a couple years. Sam Cassell, next in line for a head coaching job. Here's the fact of the matter. I can't be mad at Sam Cassell. He obviously deserves an opportunity. And I feel like a lot of people view it that way. And when you think about the Sixers, you know, they've pretty much all but announced Doc Rivers coming back for this next season. And I think we would all agree that this is somewhat of a hot seat season for Doc Rivers, right? A lot of people are thinking maybe if we start off rough, if things go sour, you know, maybe we trade a guy like James Harden. Maybe we get rid of Doc Rivers and go with that new blood, right? Make that spark. But everybody has been thinking like we have the guys here in place, right? And when you think about this Sixers assistant coach track record, okay, look at the guys that have been produced from this staff. Just go back the last couple years. All right, Lloyd Pierce, head coach. Mike D'Antoni ends up going to the Western Conference Finals. Bonnie Williams in a couple years in the NBA Finals. Ime Udoka right now in his first year in the NBA Finals. The Sixers have tried to reach for that big name with Doc Rivers, and yet all their assistants end up becoming much better. All their assistants end up becoming polished coaches within a couple years, very respectable. And I feel like a lot of people are on this wavelength where it's kind of like, okay, we need to go from within this time. And we have a lot of quality names here. I like Sam Cassell. I also really like Dave Yeager. I like what Dan Burke was able to do for the couple games that he filled in this last year. And, when you think about Sam Cassell, I think we all know that he's the top guy out of those, right? Dave Yeager's been a head coach before. He wasn't too good, but I mean, he was okay with that Memphis team, had a gritty defense. But Sam Cassell, like I said, has really been regarded as the next guy up. And I mean, now you're feeling, if you're the Sixers, like, okay, I'm going to be honest with you, okay? I'm always honest. I have a feeling he's going to get the job in Utah, and I'm pissed off about it because I really can envision Sam Cassell becoming the next coach of this team. He's been within the system for a couple years. He understands the infrastructure. He has good relationships with these guys. Here's a quote from January from Tyrese Maxie, who was talking about Doc Rivers and Sam Cassell. Maxie said, Coach Doc, he has to coach all the time. Sometimes after he coaches you hard, Sam will pull you to the side and give you a lesser talk, a little bit calmer. He does a good job of making it balanced. This is Tyrese Maxie, your hopeful future star point guard, on the relationship with Sam Cassell and how he really bonds with these guys. Look, I'm just going to sum it up like this, man. Again, the Sixers have to do everything they can to prevent this from happening, which now is, who knows? Who knows? Now it's up in the air. It's free. But if the Sixers really wanted to do something, they would go the unconventional route. And despite putting out in the media that they're going to bring Doc back and everything's all certain, they would go and shake things up a little bit. We know Doc's not going to play these young bloods, these young cats. We know we need to. We need to experiment with young guys. We got to get quicker, and we got to get away from the stubbornness that has existed here. And I truly believe Sam Cassell would be open to that. And if the Sixers wanted to shock the world and finally change, the momentum a little bit, right? Change a little bit of what everybody can predict at this point, they would go ahead and can Doc Rivers and bring on Sam Cassell. And I'm not saying, I know a lot of people are just out for it with Doc Rivers. I've been trying to see it from both sides, even though I don't specifically want him back. I understand why, they would bring him back in terms of trying to be in that win now mode rather than a first-time head coach. But when you hear about Sam Cassell leaving, then you just get kind of stabbed in the heart. And it's like, man, if we really let this happen, I have a prediction that this will probably be even worse than the other assistant coaches. This might be one of the worst moves for this franchise going forward if they let Sam Cassell leave. So if they really want to make, a mark, they should do the unthinkable, and they should can him, trade him to Utah. I mean, come on, man, do something big. But other than that, I'll end off by saying this, just to bring it all full circle, okay? Think about the Philadelphia Phillies right now. They fired Joe Girardi, the guy who's been a veteran coach, a guy with a big name who's won a championship. Who do they bring in? Not some sexy hire. They bring in his right-hand man who's been with them for years off the bench. Look at what the Phillies have done. I know it doesn't exactly correlate, but think about it, right? A new voice, new blood. The people are amped up. 11 of 13 wins. And that's from the right-hand man. Now think about Doc Rivers, right? The old stubborn head coach. Wouldn't make adjustments. Has a big name. Won a championship many years ago. Right-hand man sitting on the bench, ready to go, ready for his opportunity. It's almost a mirror image. And all I'm saying is that eventually it comes a time where you need to do something different when you're not getting different results. And maybe that time is now. So, we'll see what happens. I am just really, really hoping that Sam Cassell does not leave this team. Even as an assistant coach, I think his impact is very strong. And I think it's more valuable than a lot of people see on the daily basis. But with that being said, Utah, please don't take him away. The worst thing is that it makes perfect sense with where they're going as a franchise. They're probably going to keep and build around Donovan Mitchell. Sam Cassell would do wonders for him. Just make him a better player overall. It just makes so much sense. And the Sixers, you can't let this happen. So take all measures to prevent this. I think down the line, Sam Cassell could end up being a really, really, really good coach. And I think if he had the opportunity, I think he would do it here, given the fact he knows this team. But those are just my thoughts. Give me all yours down below. in the comments section. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and like always, I will catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
Perfect.